Hey everybody, this is Perch, and going to a viewer question here. Here's a nice topic, all right? You ready for this? Hey Perch, I watch a lot of your videos and enjoy them. All right, cool. That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. Oh no, there's more. Topic suggestion. The art is so important to a book. I see an artist I like is on a book, I buy it regardless of the story. By the way, I think that's most people, which brings up an interesting question well, put it this way. What would sell better right now in 2022? A Bendis issue of Legion of Superheroes. Let's say they reboot it, the brand new #1. Bendis is Legion of Superheroes #1 with that average artist, just not terrible, not big name, just kind of regular old artist. Or John Byrne draws a word-free comic of just splash images from his favorite moments in the X-Men. Pinups, basically. What's going to sell better? But all new art, not some reprinting thing. All new art, his take on some key moments, including current ones, if there are any. I'm thinking the Byrne book sells better. So anyway, that's kind of sad to me. As somebody who likes stories, that's kind of sad. Anyway, going back to the question here. But if a writer is on a book I like, and I open it up and I don't like the art, I'm out. Example, not to be mean, I'm a big Superman fan. World of Krypton 1, Venditti, great start to the story, but the art wasn't for me, so not buying any more issues. Okay, first of all, good question, or at least customer experience. You don't have to, by the way, send me in a question. You can send me in your experience, kind of the things you're seeing. A lot of people would love to hear it, love to read about it, comment on it, so feel free to do that too. So I think the scenario being described here is pretty common. And I think in the 80s and the 90s, I think the publishers understood this to some extent, that the art sells the book. Somewhere in the 2000s, and here's where I'll blame Mark Miller. Are you right? How could I possibly blame Mark Miller? Mark Miller became a superstar name at Marvel with Civil War, and then he was doing many other things. On Fantastic Four for a while. He did the Ultimates books. I think that through the course of the Ultimates and Civil War, Miller got so big at Marvel. So his name sold books. And a lot of retailers would say, if you put Miller's name on a book, it's going to sell. And certainly there have been other examples of this. There have been other creators and writers who had come along before Miller. But Miller, it felt like Miller was the mainstream blowout of Frank Miller and Alan Moore and many Grant Morrison at the time. But Grant Morrison, Alan Moore, they were successes, but it didn't feel like a home run mainstream success. It was, and financially it was good for them. But from a retailer perspective, and I'm trying to prove this case here, and I may be doing an absolute shit job of it, but from a retailer perspective, Miller as a writer was somebody that, Mark Miller, was somebody that it felt like that name just sold just tons of books. And it didn't hurt that, you had McNiven, you had Hitch, you had great artists with him. So it wasn't like you're pairing Miller up with, nonsensical nobody people. He had a murderer's row of talent that was always assigned to him. But Miller's name sold books. And more so again, going back, Grant Morrison sold tons of books. Alan Moore sold absolutely tons of books. Watchmen, Moore has made so much money for comics. And his name is a big deal. But Moore also showed that he could be put on kind of DC things, and he could be put on other books. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I did well, but it wasn't a massive financial success by any stretch of the imagination. And Moore also seemed to do better, down the road. His big success came from the trades, came from once the stuff got reprinted, then it's like, oh, this is a collection of work from Moore. But the companies, the big two, never benefited from him in the same way. Here's what I love Chris Claremont. I think Chris Claremont's a master storyteller. But even there, Marvel never got Claremont's on this book, and so it's an automatic home run. And maybe that's because Claremont went on to Fantastic Four, did some stuff for DC. I mean, he did other things, and it didn't have that, huge breakthrough aura about it. But Mark Miller did. There's this window of time where it's like this guy prints money for the company. And it feels like Marvel first took notice of that and said, shit, it's easier to hold on to a writer than an artist in a lot of cases. We can lock them up and we can, it's a little bit, we can do more with them. They can scale, do other books. It's easier for us to hop around. Like, it's better for us if we hype up the writer than the artist. And look, this Mark Miller guy, he's getting that attention. So quick, start hyping up Matt Fraction and Brian Michael Bendis and Jason Aaron and just here you go. And then over in DC, they're like, well, we got Jeff Johns, we've got Scott Snyder, we've got people too. And it feels like the industry tipped right around 2000, late 2000s to the publishers believing that writers ran the whole show. And in many cases, again, I think it was like, it's kind of like telling somebody what they want to hear. I think that Marvel in particular, to a lesser extent DC, but absolutely Marvel, they didn't, I have to feel like there's still some weird baggage over the Image founders leaving in the early 90s. That's all, because whenever I talk to somebody about this, before too long, they always bring up, yeah, remember that time when Todd McFarlane screwed us? Every time, Jim Lee, all those guys, like if you get people just a little drunk at certain levels of Marvel, they will immediately go back to, Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri and Todd McFarlane and these guys who really fucked us over. And we gave them the world. Like, we rolled out everything they could want. And then they went off and did their own thing like a bunch of ungrateful bastards. It came out like 2 years ago, right before COVID. I was at a con. I was talking to decent placed editors, Marvel. It came out, and what was striking about it, I've mentioned this on a video before, is only one of the people at the table was even around when that was going on. Everybody else came later, so they were holding on to this grudge that they weren't even in the company for. I think one of the people at the table wasn't born, so it's like, what are you even doing? Actually two people? Now I'm thinking about, they weren't even born. They weren't even a twinkle in their father's eye. So to speak, but they hold on to this, and so I think in the light of kind of saying hey, look, this Mark Miller guy is just making us. We could put his name out there, and Mark's I think people misunderstand kind of the persona of Mark. Mark seems like a friendly, cheerful guy. He's got a smile on his face. He's he really is the happy-go-lucky guy. Which makes it all the funnier when he writes stuff like, that doctor, the evil doctor in The Authority, where he's just murders people. But anyway, he's just an affable. He's a good-natured guy that you want to get along with. That's how he comes across. So I think Marvel the era of the writer is officially here. Go all in on that, and they did, and it conflicts with actually how fans and customers are. I think it buries the fact that customers and fans, at the end of the day, they of course want a good story, and they of course have favorite writers. You mentioned Venditti, and there's many others that are great writers out there, but they want great art. Art carries a story forward. That's kind of the nature of comics. People are coming to the table to get a story and art, and the art can drive people away faster than the story. And so, I feel like, again, the big two, and particularly Marvel, just hate that fact. They do not want to accept it at the higher levels of the company. That is just, they don't like it. They begrudgingly, whenever they have to promote art, who is it? They're promoting R.B. Silva, who's an amazing talent as well. And they were talking about, R.B. Silva, but they're like, superstar artist R.B. Silva. But you could tell in the way they were describing it that they're like, fuck, we don't want to do this. We're holding our nose doing this. I think that they're much more comfortable, and they're like, we got Peach Momoko doing variant covers. We'll promote that. Because you notice that Marvel promotes Momoko's variant covers more than Momoko doing an actual comic. This whole Demon Days thing, they promote the variant covers more than the actual story that she's doing, which is bizarre to me. I don't get where they're going with that, but it is, time and time again, Marvel sends the message that the writer is more important. And time again, I think the customers send the message that no, actually, the art is what makes or breaks the story. And that's they were locked in that endless battle. I think that one of the things that's going to slip us out of this current era into the next era, which we're midway through already, we're getting into this big transition period. One of the things that's going to break that free is the companies admitting that at the very least it's equal and you need to promote the artist just as hard and as aggressively as you do the writer. To kind of put a bow on it, Substack. We saw those announcements, huge, big news for the industry. Lots of people talk about a lot of jealousy involved in Substack, and how dare some of these creators get in. I mean, we saw there was a lot of noise about Substack. Less now. It's January, and I mean crickets where Substack is concerned. It's just I don't know. Attention over. We're done. And part of that maybe is Substack was a writer driven thing. I think if you would have had a Substack kind of announcement that was art related, if you had announced that the biggest artists at Marvel and DC were jumping off and going to do their own thing, I suspect it would have had a lot more impact, and we'd still be talking about it today. But maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. Thank you for the question, and thanks for listening.